I gave. It is about Mary Magdalene and her presence and her staying power. My friends here at the Pueblos in New Mexico say we are still here, acknowledging the brilliant resilience it takes to stand strong on their lands from time immemorial and throughout the apocalyptic, exterminating, and extractive regimes of this country. And it is a resounding call. We are still here throughout all Indigenous communities. And I bow to those who have remained vigilant and faithful to their sacred places, their ceremonial dignity, and communal strength of place-based wisdom. Those of us who are settlers can learn what it means to live a life attuned 7 generations forward and seeing every life form as a relation. I love what you did today, Bethany, by putting our lungs and the trees next to each other. Evidently, we're going to hear a song sparrow. Every life form is a relation to us. So Mary Magdalene, a singular and unique presence who showed up constantly and consistently at Jesus's side over and over. In all 4 gospel accounts, she was at the cross, the foot of the cross, and she was at the tomb, although there was one gospel, I think it was Luke, that said she was part of a band of women, but it was implied. And she had a gospel that she wrote called Mary Magdalene, that's attributed to her. And in the 1st century, it was secreted away, 1st or 2nd century, and hidden in an earthen jar in the desert surrounding Egypt so that the patriarchs of orthodoxy and canonization in those early centuries could not hear her voice anymore. But Mary Magdalene still speaks, and she is here today. Reverend Cynthia Bourgeau, who has been a 40-year scholar of Mary Magdalene, wrote The Meaning of Mary Magdalene, a book, and she talks about these demons that it said in Mark and Luke that Jesus healed her of 7 demons. But Cynthia Bourgeau calls them the shadow parts of ourselves, those unconscious, unhealed, or egoic-driven parts of ourselves that we often don't see, but other people can. And Mary Magdalene, by surrendering, these parts of herself became a paragon and exemplar of what it means to be emptied out so that her body and soul could be fully realized. Some of the actual passions is what Cynthia Bourgeau calls them. And they're actually featured in Mary Magdalene's, the remnants of her gospel that were found: rage, fear, melancholy of endless grief, lust or ambition, pride, ignorance. These were things that Mary Magdalene wrestled with and finally let go. And you see that in her gospel. The French interpreter Jean-Yves Laloux talks about the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which was found centuries after the books of the Bible had been canonized. And he posits that the fact that she had 7 demons cast out of her meant she had done her psychological work inwardly and was prepared to be a full-hearted, clear-seeing disciple of Jesus. 7 is a number of completion, biblically speaking, of fullness. And some of us know in the Far East, the 7 chakras are also these energy centers of the human body and soul that when they are cleared out and healed, that allows us to be more fully realized. Perhaps Mary had her chakras realigned and healed completely of ancestral wounds, cultural baggage, and egoic barriers. And what happens when you're no longer weighed down or overwhelmed by all this stuff? You let go of this destitution of cultural self-hatred and these worldly imaginations of who you are supposed to be and that you are unworthy and not good enough, especially as a woman. She must have felt that. And so her mind and heart must have been completely decolonized in the healing of her shadows, or these passions. She was freed from fear and fragmentation and seen for who she really was, rather than the cultural idea of what a woman was supposed to be. And she followed Jesus. And she became the embodiment of what Jesus taught. The gravitational center of his ministry was kenosis. Let go, release, surrender. And she no longer had to look through those delusional eyeglasses of the power structures or grasping after things that didn't matter, but instead embrace an inclusive, extravagant, self-emptying love that her master taught her, free to trust her heart, free to trust her spiritual imagination and intuition, and she became what Bourgeois calls an icon of love, a beautiful, wholehearted, clear-seeing presence. And at the cross and at the tomb, she was the beating, devotional heart of love. Down through the centuries, the Christian church did, as the poem said, align itself with the power systems of empire, greed, and acquisition, and still does today. So Mary's acts of contrition, of bending low in love and remaining steadfastly present, is so desperately needed today. We must reclaim her voice. We are still here. We are here. And her example will balance the corrosive, cancerous, patriarchal domination system that is squeezing and killing every planetary system, because she truly understood at a heart level the message of her master and teacher, Yeshua. Margaret Starbird is another scholar of Mary Magdalene who suggests that the translation of her nickname, Magdal Eder, meant the tower. Some people have attributed it to the town she came from, Magdala. But Starbird suggests her towering role in the band of Jesus' disciples and the honor that some of the male disciples secretly accorded to her, especially when she became the apostle to the apostles, announcing Jesus was alive after meeting him in the garden. We see her in this icon holding an egg, the egg of new life, of fertility. It's a very indigenous icon, and she was certainly a Palestinian indigenous woman. As the coalition continues to hold vigil in many thresholds and gateways of death, dying, and suffering, Mary Magdalene calls us through her example of her staying power that we can choose to show up over and over with our oils and spices in this hospice time. And we can echo with our indigenous brothers and sisters who in resilience and courage say, we are still here. And with Maryam, bend low, bind up the wounds, and look on the death of our beloveds. And what happened when she remained steadfast? She encountered the living Christ, as the story goes. And the living Christ said, don't hold on, but go tell the good news. We are living in a time where the shadows and demons of this country are being exposed daily. Nothing new for BIPOC folks. It's been there forever, since the foundation of this country, but shocking for settlers. The colonizing forces on steroids, full display, parading down our streets, unashamed and wretchedly cruel for power and mammon. Mary Magdalene grappled with these as one human being and became an exemplar, for we collectively are called to do that. Grapple with those powers and shadows within us and collectively come together across all cultures, race, places, and people. Bending low, we look in until we rise with him to refashion the world. So I want to just end by asking you, where do you imagine yourself in the story? Where is your body? Or perhaps where is your body in space and time these days as you are working with the coalition in your communities? Are you at the tomb? Are you one of the disciples who came and looked in and ran back? Are you with Mary holding the oils and spices? How are you being changed as you witness and hold vigilant, staying power with those in colonized spaces we are calling to ask for the boot to be taken out from our necks? So I want to just end by naming the places at the coalition where we do put our bodies in circle, kneeling at the gates of prisons, praying, holding those whose bodies are bent low. Human creatures, earth. Suriname, Indian school sites, the disappeared and murdered Indigenous women, San Carlos Apache at Oak Flat, Mount Graham, Anishinaabe and Dakota nations on the front lines against the pipelines and the fight to save traditional rice, the Shinnecock Nation against the wealthy sewage polluting Hamptons of New York, Lac Leishmio, Mayan seed savers in Campeche, Mexico, our reparative justice networks, and we continue to speak the names of those disappeared, illegally kidnapped, and imprisoned without due cause or process. We are still here. Mahmoud Khalil, Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, Mohsen Madawi, Rumaisia Ozturk, the people of Gaza and Palestine, and hundreds, if not thousands or more, of unnamed bodies whose mothers are not here to anoint them, sit in the public square and weep at their tombs. Unless you get low, you will not enter the place of new life. Unless you weep over what has been destroyed, you will not see his risen form. I think of those who bathe the body, anoint it with myrrh and aloes, and watch and weep. You have to bend down to enter the tomb, to even look within it, and you must lower yourself towards the ground. Blessed be.